Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And the NBA is upside down. Some massive trades happened while I was fast asleep here on the West Coast. I don't think we're going to be talking about anything impacted by those trades necessarily, although the Lakers will be without Russell Westbrook moving forward. But we do have 4 games for you guys tonight, so we're going to take a look at a couple of those and our player props as we're doing each and every weekday, so make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Also want you to head to thelines.com. That's where we have all of our great written content for you and our odds finder tool that you can use to make sure you're getting the best odds available from all those U.S. sports books giving you guys NBA bets this season. Nate, let's get into this 4-game slate and then talk about our first game, which is the Magic hosting the Nuggets.
Yeah, and the Nuggets are -6.5 here in Orlando with a 232 total. Then we got Bulls +1 at the Nets, who, now moving on without both those stars. It's going to be the Cam Thomas show. The Bulls, still could trade one of their guys before that game kicks off, so we'll stay away. The Suns are going to be without now Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson sent to Brooklyn for Durant. We'll see how they do at Atlanta. The spread has only moved from +5 to +7 with those 2 key wings out. So interesting, but tough to pick there. And then the other game we're looking at, Bucks -6.5 at the Lakers with a 240 total. Nuggets on the road here. The first thing you look at is dramatic dip in offense. And you could say some of that lately is the fact that Joker's missed 3 of their last 6 road games. Jamal Murray has missed 4 straight road games and might very well sit tonight. He's dealing with inflammation in his knee. And so obviously it's going to hurt offensively without them. But even with Joker in there, they failed to cover in 3 straight on the road. You look at 12 road games overall, mostly with Joker in there, 110 a game. 11 threes versus 14 at home, basically. And the assist-to-turnover ratio, far, far worse. I mean, nearly 16 turnovers per game and 26 assists, whereas they lead the league in everything at home. The best offensive rating by far. And they're 1-6 against the spread as road favorites recently. So that's usually when Jokic is in there. They are still favored. That being said, I'm not as bullish on the Magic as you are. I know they gave the Nuggets trouble last time they met in Denver, and Denver was on a back-to-back there, kind of, messed around and then pulled it out late. And they did lose in Orlando. That was a long time ago, though, at this point. And Joker does have pretty bad splits his last 4 road games in Orlando. I mean, terrible by his standards. 113 offensive rating, 19.5 points, 8.5 assists. So rather than trying to figure out a 6.5 point spread, I would just take under 232. It's down 0.5 point at this point. But I mean, the Nuggets scoring since we turned to the calendar here, 107 on the road versus 124 at home. Offensive rating 16 points worse. Assist to turnover ratio, again, a mile worse. And 26th in efficiency versus by far the most efficient offense at home. The pace is also a bit slower. 21st in pace on the road in that span. And struggling from the 3-point line, which I think is the biggest key here. Orlando always struggling from the 3-point line, particularly of late. And both these teams are kind of a bit of a packet in defense. And Orlando is 7th in 3-point defense, but they give up a high percentage of points off threes. So if Denver's not hitting on the road, or I don't think Orlando's hitting anywhere, and if Orlando's not getting the free throw line, which Denver is slightly above average, denying that, I just don't think there's going to be a ton of points here. Orlando, if you look at their last 5 home games, second slowest pace in the league, and under in their last 2 because they're scoring just 103 and hitting 8 threes in those 2 games.
Yeah, it's scary to try to think of taking an over when you're talking about the Orlando Magic. I'll agree to that. I think it does depend a bit the type of game that they're playing. When they've been on the road, they really just sort of succumb to whatever it is that the other team does, and they play that way, going under and on the road a ton, except for when they're playing the Timberwolves, right? But they're going under versus the 76ers and the Heat, going over against teams that don't play defense, usually, even at home. And that Nuggets game last time, did go over as well by about a point on that spread. You talk about there weren't nearly as many guys in. But all that to say, this is in Orlando. Not that Orlando's been like world beaters at home in any category. They're pretty much, hovering around the middle of the pack with most of the key categories that you look at. They're not necessarily the worst at anything, but they're pretty much middle of the pack when it comes to any other type of the way that they're scoring, even playing defense, other than limiting points in the paint, and to a degree second chance points as well. There's not much that you like for them. They're not like necessarily creating a ton of turnovers, and they're certainly not getting out on the fast break, although they are limiting that at home as of late. So I think the way that they've been playing, look at their last 5 at home, specifically 116 defensive rating, pretty much the same offensive rating, maybe a tick lower, and then get really sort of handling business a bit more than they were on the defensive glass, not allowing second chance points, like I said, and limiting those paint points as well, which they weren't wonderful at, but they also were missing Wendell Carter Jr. for a few weeks or almost a month at one point, in which that's where they sort of dwindled, and those stats have come a long way back. I mean, Moritz Wagner as your backup center is great for being able to stretch an offense, but it's not necessarily good for limiting points in the paint. So with him, with Wendell back and their sort of full rotation of guys in there, Mo Bamba out obviously tonight, but I still think that they're able to sort of limit what Denver wants to do a bit more if Denver's not going to be hitting threes quite as well. Not saying that they won't, but you brought up all of the stats and how much better they are on the road, at home versus on the road. It's not even close, and 6 percentage points worse from deep as well. I also just like the free throw. Well, let me just start here. The free throw attempts are crucial, right? Like you talk about how dependent the Magic are on free throw attempts to be able to win games, and when they lose, they're only shooting about 24 free throws a game when they're winning in all their wins this season. They're shooting 28, and they do get a few more calls at home, as is the expectation as well, to get to the line. But really more so, and I should also add Denver's defense in terms of like limiting free throw attempts, not bad, but not great. And over the last roughly like 15 games, it's gone from about 15th best in middle of the pack in terms of limiting free throws to actually giving up a few more of those and falling worse than 20th. So there's an opportunity for them to keep this game close to Orlando with points. But the thing that I really like is how well they're playing against the West. And there's some oddities to the fact that they are a league best when it comes to non-conference games against the spread, 14-6 versus the West. Like I said, a few oddities in there, with one where Joker's missing, and one where Ja's missing, etc., that kind of thing. But still, that's still 20 games against the West that they've covered in 14 of them, 7-2 in their last 9 against the spread versus the West. And in those 9, 116.5 a game, giving up about 116 a game, gets us right about that total. They've been playing at about 100 pace, and still 12 made threes, not good, 28 free throw attempts, very good. So that's what they've been doing against the West. I don't know how they're prepped for it, but it is sort of also relevant to the fact that they've played a ton of Eastern Conference teams in a row and then a ton of Western Conference teams in a row. So it allows for some streakiness in that sense. Right now, they're just sort of in a back and forth. They're playing both conferences equally. But like I said, most importantly, what's the style of play that they're playing against? They sort of just succumb to that. And these Nuggies are playing poorly on the road on offense and slow and choppy. So I think you can expect Orlando to come along for that ride.
Yeah, and the one thing you really can depend on with Orlando is defending the paint, right? I mean, 6th in limiting paint points, second chance points, just held the Knicks to 36 paint points, and that's heavily interior based. Also held them to 19 free throws. Nuggets don't get to the free throw line nearly as much. And where they struggle defensively, again, is 3-point defense on the road, is assists on the road, or in general. And Orlando's just not really that type of team to share the ball and really pick you apart with assists. So I just don't think either offense is going to be taken off. In fact, one offense could completely flounder here. I mean, and it was Denver's the last 2 times they've hit the road here after long home stretches. They've gone under 100 points. Last 4 times. I mean, they've lost 3 of them. They beat the Clippers, only got 115 in that one though. But it's like after they're home, the emotional letdown of that first one on the road, they just can't bring any offense with them. Again, it depends on who's sitting out. I think Jamal Murray will be out for this one. So, I mean, that is a big hit. And I just think, if they win this game, it's probably going to be with some pretty good defense and fourth quarter clutch play. But I don't really see them necessarily pulling away. I have a hard time taking the spread either way.
I actually am fine, honestly, with the 6.5. I know that's scary because comes down to it, you put Denver on the line if you're trying to come back, and you boom, Bob's your uncle, you got 7 points. But I still believe a bit more in what in Orlando, and also just believe in the fact that Denver in this type of situation just doesn't seem to kind of give a shit as much, if we're being completely honest. I mean, 4 of their last 5 as away faves, failing to cover. You talked about a few of those numbers earlier, so I'm believing in that. And if Jamal Murray doesn't play as well, it creates a bit more problems for them on offense, obviously, only helping us a bit more on this under to hit. So that is all the time we have for you in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Follow along. Got a couple other videos up for you today. And until we see you next, happy betting.